Once upon a time, the Tonkor was considered to be one of the best weapons in the game. But eventually DE caught on and nerfed it to the ground. My question is, can the Tonkor still pack a punch or not? Hey guys, hello and welcome back. As always, my name is Leyzar, and today we're going to be diving deeper into this Mastery Rank 5 primary weapon, the Tonkor. As per the usual, I'm going to be showcasing a cheap build, something affordable that anybody can build, but we also have a quote-unquote endgame setup with a Riven. That being said, please keep in mind that my builds and guides take a new player-friendly approach. I take my time and explain a lot of things that a veteran player might find obvious, so in case you're a veteran, please bear with me. And with that out of the way, let's jump into the Tonkor. Let's begin by quickly taking a look at how the weapon handles without any mods equipped, and for that we're simply gonna be taking a couple of free shots. The Tonkor is a grenade launcher, and per shot you're getting a single grenade. The magazine size is also only one, so you do have to reload after each and every single shot. The explosion itself has a pretty sizable area of effect, that is 5 meters without the addition of firestorm, so that is pretty good, not bad at all. Also, the grenade will detonate in contact with a surface or with an enemy. If you fire it through the air like so, it basically does nothing. Now the Tonkor is capable of self-damaging you, but as you can see, if I just fire at my feet, the little grenades things don't really detonate. That is because you have a 5 meter or 6 meter range before the actual grenade is armed, so bear that one in mind. That said, let's jump into stats to see precisely what we're dealing with. Mod capacity for the Tonkor is gonna be 60 out of 60, and if yours has only 30 out of 30, jump into actions and install the Auto-King Catalyst. The Auto-King Catalyst can be found from alerts, invasions, or if you're lucky, from the daily sortie, and you can also pay 20 plat to have one installed. Next, my weapon has been formatted a total of 6 times. Now unfortunately the Tonkor doesn't come with any default polarities. For the weapon build I'm recommending you guys, you can get away with 4 forma. Simply add 4 V symbols or Madurai. Moving on to the actual stats of the weapon, you got an accuracy of 100, but keep in mind that there are 2 damage sources to the Tonkor. First, the actual grenade physically hitting a target, then the explosion. However, the explosion accounts for about 85% of the damage, so what you're trying to do is get damage with the explosion. In case you're on console especially, aim for the feet does apply in this case. Critical chance is not bad, 25%, and a delicious critical multiplier of 2.5x. That, for all intents and purposes, is the bread and butter of the weapon. A fire rate of 3.17. Now, the fire rate doesn't really matter all that much, as the reload does matter, because again, you get a magazine of only one. Reload of 1.7. In actual gameplay, it is a bit annoying reloading all the time, but then again, it is a grenade launcher. Riven disposition 2 out of 5, which means that somehow the Tonkor is still a very popular weapon, and a status chance of only 10%. Now, needless to say, in order for many of the status procs to be effective, you need a lot of them, vital not counting in this case. So that status chance doesn't really help us a lot. From my point of view, it's a better idea just to play into crit with a Tonkor. Trigger semi, and we got puncture and blast on the weapon. Now, keep in mind that the blast doesn't do any puncture damage at all. The puncture that you see here only refers to the grenade physically hitting the target, and the explosion, well, the explosion is blast. Now let's start slapping on some mods, starting with mandatory mods. Damage with serration 165%, and we're also going to be adding heavy caliber, 165% extra damage. Our accuracy drops from 100 to 25.2, and no, it's not. It shouldn't result in that, but the way Warframe works, it doesn't matter. It's fine. Trust me. Let me show you the actual effect of heavy cal on the aiming. No problem at all. Again, we are aiming to get damage with the explosion, so the accuracy penalty from heavy caliber in this case is totally negligible, and I encourage you guys to get heavy cal. If you don't know how to farm corrupted mods, link in the cards right now. Moving on, we're gonna go to the best thing on everything except the Secura Penta, if I remember correctly. Multi-shot with split chamber, 90% multi-shot, and for the time being, we're also gonna be adding Vigilante armaments with 60% multi-shot. So basically, with 150% multi-shot, I got a guaranteed second grenade per shot and a 50% chance at a third grenade. On a weapon such as the Tonkor, on basically any weapon, that is a pretty big deal. Please also notice that my status chance has gone up to 23.2. You should know that this is a shot status chance. Moving on, we're gonna go to critical chance and critical damage. Point strike with 150% and critical damage with vital sense. My crit chance jumps up to 62.5 and a super high crit multi of 5.5x. From this point onwards, you really gotta decide what you're gonna do with the weapon. Do you wanna build straight elemental or do you wanna try something bleedy through Hunter Munitions? Let's try both approaches and you guys get to pick whatever you prefer. Elemental combos. Now these should be applied depending on circumstances. Where are you going and who are you fighting? We also got to keep in mind that the Tonkor by default already has an elemental combo, Blast, and you can't really get around Blast. Currently in Warframe, Blast is not seen as a terrific elemental combo as the status proc simply knocks enemy down. Now, depending on the level of content that you're doing, for example, maybe you're going a couple of hours into a defense or a survival. After 2 hours, seeing level 300s plus, you're gonna be glad you have that blast damage there. Also, another thing about the Tonkor is that the explosion will knock down targets. Even the grenade hitting the target will knock them down regardless if blast procs or not. So you basically have a guaranteed knockdown. Let's say that we're going to be fighting Grineer. Against Grineer, we got to take into account the armor types that they have, that being their main source of damage mitigation. You have ferrite armor and you have alloy armor. Alloy is weak to radiation damage and ferrite armor is weak to corrosive damage. You can build either of these two depending once again on your circumstances. My recommendation against Grineer, more often than not, I feel it's always a bit better to build corrosive damage, which is the elemental combo between electricity and toxin. 60s or 90s, well the 60s, 60s or the 90 mods. In this case, I'm going to encourage you guys to go for the 90 mods, the biggest wallop worth of damage that you can squeeze out of the Tonkor. Simply because, yes, you do get a better status chance with the 60s, but it's kind of pointless. Again, we're building corrosive. I need a lot of procs in order for that corrosive to give me some real value. And considering how the Tonkor fires, not really all that worth. We got electricity, let's go to toxin. Next, we're going to be talking about a few option slots. Now, you can remove vigilante armaments. Again, from my point of view, this is an option slot, and you can go for something like adhesive blast. Now, grenades have a 100% chance to stick to surfaces. Unfortunately, for the Tonkor, it doesn't really provide a huge benefit, but there you go, you can go for something like this. A smarter approach, from my point of view, would be something like Firestorm. Now, this one will increase your blast radius by 24%. Keep in mind that the default blast radius is 5 meters, so you do get something out of Firestorm, and it's definitely worth using something like this in actual gameplay, of course. Now let's try the weapon and see if it packs a punch or not. We're going to be spawning in Corrupted Heavy Gunners level 120. You know what, I'm actually going to stand on this platform over here. Because initially, what you want to do again is try to get the max amount of damage you can out of that AoE. So as you can see, I'm able to hit all of the Corrupted Heavy Gunners with a single blast. I'm even getting some corrosive procs in here and there. The damage values are not bad, and keep in mind that the orange crits that you see are generated by vigilante armaments. It doesn't happen often, but when it does happen, of course, it is pretty glorious. It's gonna take a lot of shots for me to take out one of these high-level targets, but as you can see, the Tonkor does pack a punch. The problem is the fire rate together with the reload. So a smart idea would be also to increase that reload speed so you get more uptime out of the Tonkor. There is also a small trick here if you want to increase the uptime. There's a delay between a weapon not having ammo and the automatic reload triggering. So as soon as you fire, you can press reload and you get like a microsecond or something a little bit faster. There is also that. To be honest with you guys, I don't really bother. As you saw there, the performance of the weapon wasn't really all that bad. The damage from the explosions is high, but without some status chance, it doesn't really feel all that powerful. But what we can do is play a bit into Hunter Munitions. Hunter Munitions currently in Warframe is an extremely overpowered mod. Take a look at this one, 30% chance to apply a slash on critical hit. My critical hit chance is 62.5%, so it's gonna be based on that. I need a crit, and then only after I get that crit, I got a 30% chance on the crit to apply a slash. So let's put on Hunter Munitions. Couple it with what exactly? Perhaps you have something like Argon Scope. Now, this would seem like a no-brainer, right? To get Argon Scope, more critical chance, right? So therefore, more chances to proc Hunter Munitions. Unfortunately, Argon Scope is not really compatible with the way that the Tonkor should be used, simply because you're not really going for headshots, and actually keeping the buff from Argon Scope up using the Tonkor, I found a little bit challenging. Now, if you choose to go for Zephyr, okay, for an approach such as that, then yeah, it's a lot easier to keep Argon Scope up, but without Zephyr or without some outside help, it's pretty difficult to keep this buff up, even on stationary targets. I mean, let's be honest, in actual gameplay, they're gonna be moving around unless you got a crowd control frame or something. I'm just gonna say that Argon Scope is simply not very compatible with a weapon such as the Tonkor. So instead, what we can do is add more critical damage. Critical damage with bladed rounds. Of course, this will add more value to the crit slashes. And we're gonna be testing the weapon like this and see if it performs any better or not. Resimulate the same targets, and let's see what we can do with some slash. I'm gonna do a single shot, and you will see that I already proc some slash. Look at the values, 4,500, 5,381. That's a single shot. So if the stars align and you get the procs that you want on a crit and all whatnot, then sure, it can be absolutely bloody glorious. And I honestly do feel like a weapon such as that, the weapon does perform better with a Hunter Munitions setup. And keep in mind that I load Hunter Munitions and how powerful it is. Basically any primary weapon in this game, if it has a high critical chance, then it's viable for Hunter Munitions. But I can't also deny that this is a whole lot more efficient than before. From my testing on targets such as this, it was a whole lot more, how do I say this? A whole lot more potent to go for an elemental combo and Hunter Munitions. For example, these targets are corrupted heavy gunner, they have ferrite armor on, so therefore corrosive is going to be dealing 75% more damage to them. So what I can do is keep my Hunter Munitions and make an elemental combo. Again, this is a bit of fine tuning, and you can only really do this if you know exactly what you're going to be doing. So what I can do is drop bladed rounds and vigilante armaments and go for Stormbringer, Toxin, and Infected Clip. We're going to be testing the weapon out like this. I think that's about 10,000 corrosive damage. Same targets as before. Let's see if we get a difference. Again, I'm not even trying to go for headshots here. I think it's rather pointless. 5,300, 4,771. The impact damage, of course, the yellow numbers are going to be a bit higher because I am using corrosive damage. So you can go for something such as this. For an MR5 weapon, this is not bad, definitely not. Only a few shots to completely annihilate. Oh, look at that, 12,985. Now that is a orange slash. I got, or no, it can't be an orange slash. That's a pretty high slash, actually, awesome. Can't be an orange slash because I removed vigilante armaments. But again, for an MR5 weapon, that is pretty good, I gotta say. But then again, there are other powerful weapons in this game. Just keep in mind that Warframe is not exactly just about power, how much power you have. You have more power than the game asks of you to have. You're never gonna need like the most powerful anything in Warframe. It lets you pick and choose depending on your own playstyle. So if you want a bit of advice, look towards having fun more than just more power and all whatnot. Because then we can bring frames into discussion, and is there any point to have weapons in certain circumstances? In any case, I'm gonna recommend to you guys a build based on Hunter Munitions. From my point of view, the weapon works better like this. What you choose to pair it up with is entirely up to you. Again, theoretically it would be good with Argon Scope to max out your critical chance to get as much as you can, and of course bladed rounds as well. But again, I just don't feel that Argon Scope is entirely compatible with a weapon such as this. Let me show you exactly what I mean, and this is on stationary targets. Also, reload speed would be a good idea, of course. Adhesive blast if you feel like you actually need that, or Firestorm. In actual gameplay, think about it, Firestorm should prove the highest value mod. I'm trying to get headshots here on stationary targets and try to keep up the buff from Argon Scope just so I can get my critical chance and all whatnot. I think that actually damaged me. You can also run into the explosion if you really want to get damaged, but this is not a weapon that you should be using something like on Chroma, for example, right? To get the self buff and all whatnot. Use the Hiku Prime for that, or the normal Hiku if you don't have the Prime. Yes, on stationary targets is amazing, but when they're gonna be moving around without some crowd control, I just don't feel that it's gonna be easy or fun trying to hit these guys with a grenade in the head. Even though, no, if you want a bit of a challenge, you can go for something like that. Alright, that's it for standard builds. I think you guys get the point, and I'm pretty sure you know how to build your Tonkor by now. But let's talk a bit about Rivens. Everybody loves Rivens. Yes, I love them too, to a certain degree. And I got this one to show off. It's a Tonkor Visicron with critical chance and damage. I got this one for about 100 plat. Currently Tonkor Rivens are not very expensive because first and foremost it's only a disposition of 2, so the amount of stats are not going to be very high. Even so, from a dispo 2 and a double positive, you got 104% crit chance and 134% damage. And we got of course Hunter Munitions with bladed rounds. If you're looking for stat priority on the Tonkor, max out that critical chance without the need to use Argon Scope. Get as much critical chance as you can up until 100%, and then I would focus heavily on critical damage. Keep in mind that the base multiplier is pretty high at 2.5x. For usability, firestorm and some reload speed, that wouldn't be bad, definitely. Alright, let's test it with a Riven to see if it's any better or not. The higher critical chance, of course, is gonna do wonders for my slashes, or theoretically, yeah, one shot, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 slashes there, I believe. Of course, the Rivens do make things better. Dispo 2, from my point of view, is kind of a turning point. I still feel like Dispo 2 is worth going after. Currently, prices for Tonkors vary from 20 plat to 600-700 plat. I would get an unrolled one, alright? I would get something like for 20-30 plat, then head on over to Kuva and try my luck. And I think that's pretty much it. There's still one more thing which of course I want to do, bump up everything with Warframe buffs for kicks and lols. And for that you can use a whole bunch of frames, but for objective reasons I prefer Lady Mirage Prime. Now let's talk about buffs. When it comes to the aura, you can use something like Corrosive Projection. Against Grenier, this is the best aura you can have. However, you can also look into amp auras. Now, these will grant their benefits regardless of the target. Rifle amp does provide its benefit to the Tonkor. Even though it says it's rifle damage, don't worry about it. Basically, I haven't met a primary weapon that doesn't get the buff from rifle amp. So maybe change this one to primary weapons, I don't know. Let's talk about arcanes, because arcanes are a lot more impactful in general. Arcane Avenger, from my point of view, is the best arcane for the Tonkor. You got a 30% critical chance increase. Keep in mind that this is a bonus additive after. So for example, if you have a weapon with a 1% critical chance or a 0% critical chance and you get the buff from Avenger, you're going up to 30 or 31 depending on your case. So it is a pretty good buff. What about damage? Shouldn't we go for damage? Well, the problem with using Arcane Rage is the same problem with using Argon Scope, is on headshot. It's a 10% chance on a headshot. So from my point of view, again, it's not really compatible. Fire rate on the Tonkor, don't be silly. Reload speed, yeah, if we had that, but we don't have it. So I would recommend you go for double Arcane Avengers. Do these things stack or not? Yes, they do 100%. You can hop on over to the simulacrum if you don't trust me and test them for yourself. Keep in mind that the interface, however, will never show you two separate instances, but they do stack. One more time, Corrupted Heavy Gunners level 120, and this time let's unpause the AI so they can move around and all whatnot. We're also going to be activating Mirage's free ability for a massive damage increase, and believe it or not, I haven't had the chance to actually test with Warframe buff, so I'm pretty curious to see how much damage the Tonkor is capable of. Oh my god, holy, okay, I did not expect that. I am using some rather extreme Warframe buffs, but the weapon is capable of one-shotting targets. Now that's a pretty sizable damage buff, and keep in mind that a build such as this for me, oh wow, that's just so awesome, is pretty squishy, so you're not going to be able to survive a whole lot against Corrupted Heavy Gunners level 120 with something like this. But seeing is believing, so let's test it. Am I going to die, mama, or not? Turn off invincibility. One more time, same targets, let's goo-goo. Now normally the clone, wow, holy mother. Well, I did die, but take a look at that shot. Dude, it just like completely melted those high level targets. Awesome. I wasn't expecting it to do that much. What the clones should be doing is drawing a bit of fire away from you. So there is that. Then again, if you can keep your targets crowd control, if we could focus on that, perhaps we'd stand a much better chance at surviving. But you know what you wouldn't stand a good chance at? Proccing that Arcane Avenger. One more time, let's see. Gonna fly through the air, try to knock everybody down, try to keep them down on the ground so they don't have time to actually damage me. I'm not in the... okay, they're dead. Awesome. What can I say? The Tonkor may have been something once upon a time. It's clearly not one of the best weapons in the game anymore, but for an MR5 weapon, this is absolutely bloody glorious, and I do recommend the weapon if you're looking for something like a grenade launcher. It is very satisfying to use, but of course that is entirely subjective. As always, my name has been Leyzar. Thank you guys so much for watching. Like, favorite, share, and subscribe if you enjoyed the content. If you got any feedback for me, by all means, leave it in the comment section down below. Also in the comment section down below if you want to suggest a particular weapon review. Now, in all honesty, I can't exactly promise you that it'll be done by next time because these things take a bit of time to make, but I will be reading through each and every comment. You can also find me on Twitch, Facebook, Twitter, all the usual places. Until next time, my friends. Bye-bye.